every time I try to make peace with my enemies, I lose my patience and I lose my mind. Whoever cuts or hits whoever is in front of me, but why'd it have to be her this time? Oh, no, I let my loved one go, and I can't stop, no, I can't do the pain. Oh, no, let my true colors show. Black and blue look good on you today. Half for one heart and half for one soul. Don't make me whole. I've got this debt to pay. You wouldn't last one day walking in my shoes. Harder work and harder play, and I was just starting to like you. But I've been known to lose my temper when I'm tempted to, but otherwise I'm a pretty nice guy. And if you knew all the places that they send me to, you would know to avoid my kind. Oh, no, I let my loved one go, and I can't stop, no, I can't do the pain. Oh, no, let my true colors show. Black and blue look good on you today. Half of one heart and half of one soul. Half of one heart and half of one soul. Half of one heart and half of one soul. Don't make me whole. Don't make me whole. I let my loved one go, and I can't stop, no, I can't do the pain. Let my true colors show. Black and blue look good on you today. I let my loved one go, and I can't stop, no, I can't do the pain. Let my true colors show. Black and blue looks good on you today. Half of one heart and half of one soul. Don't make me whole. Don't make me whole. Don't make me whole. I'm tired of waiting, lost while I'm sitting at home. Dream of a new destination, lust for something unknown. Oh, you better leave it alone, and you know I'd rather get up and go. How long can I lie around waiting for it? Sometimes you gotta walk out the door. No limits, no ceiling, no crown. No pressure gonna hold me down. No stopping till I break every rule. No limits to what I can do. Nowhere is too far away. No border gonna stand in my way. No wall that I can't break through. No limits to what I can do. I belong to you. I belong to you. Do just what you want. You're the one I trust. And I always be around when I need some loving, baby. No one else. Yeah. Let you down. Take me to your heart. I belong to you. Take me to your soul.
Yo! What's up, everyone? Alberto, I got a little worried because you were like hunched down. I'm like, I don't know if he realizes this is about to go off.
Absolutely no. I was just looking at the phone, and then for whatever reason, I look at the screen and say, "Oh, beep."
Well, that would have been great. Wouldn't be the first time. Wouldn't be the first time. Oh man. So Alberto, thank you for joining us here on a Saturday.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So yeah, Patrick was telling me he wasn't going to be available, and I had to. I was actually going to ask you anyway and have Patrick with us.
You are saying
no.
Saying that I'm just a replacement of Patrick?
No. No, in fact, I wanted all three of us on. And then he's like, I got to go do something with the missus. And I'm like, all right, it'll just be me and Alberto. It'll be the A&A stream. That's so fine. Cool. And then, last minute, he decided to, figure out that he could make it. So guess what? Patrick's here.
Yo, Patrick.
Yo.
Great. Yo. I mean, I was about to say that it's only the prettiest of the Fantastic Four, and instead we also have Patrick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's keep it.
Yeah. So, so Patrick literally popped up on my screen 1 minute on the countdown. He's like, I'm like, all right, Patrick's gonna be here. So all right, we're just missing Marco. He's just,
Yeah.
Being
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
He's probably watching on the chat or somewhere.
Yeah, he's in the chat. He's in the chat. So
He's in the chat?
Yeah,
Hi,
he's in the
Marco.
chat. Yeah. Marco's there. He's being an old fuddy-duddy, and he didn't want to join us on live.
But let me
He's
see.
manning the chat, though.
Hey, I'm here. You see, my hand is in your box.
Oh, that's because I didn't adjust it. Hang on. Sorry.
I don't want to invade your personal space.
One second. Sorry, because I didn't do this one because of Patrick. So 1 second.
That's Patrick's fault.
It's always Patrick.
Here
I
we
messed it
are.
all up. I messed it all up.
Yeah.
How's it going, Alberto?
Great. Yeah, everything's fine. We start traveling
Yes.
again. That's so beautiful. We deliver a couple of trainings in Amsterdam, and things are moving again.
Yes, that's
I'm so
amazing.
jealous.
That's amazing. So real quick, everyone, if you're not familiar with Alberto or Marco Russo, who's in the chat, they are both part of SQLBI. So you can check out their website on the screen or in the description below. So SQLBI.com. They have tons of great training and books and blogs, articles, all that sorts of stuff. So DAX and data modeling, this is your go-to place. So be sure you check that out. Let's see here. If you are new to the stream, go ahead and put hashtag new in the chat. We always love seeing the new faces. It's always amazing to see the new folks that are here. A lot of people saying they can't travel to Europe. It's not allowed. Yes. I think everyone is ready to go to conferences again and in-person trainings and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, because, I mean, we are geeks, so we typically hate to meet people in person.
Yes.
But after 2 years, you say, well,
We're ready.
now I want some real connection.
Indeed. All right. Wow, lots of news here. So we got Pacho Gaming's new, Carl's new, Alita's new, Mohammed's new, Elvin's new. Data on the Road says the data bus doesn't float. Data on the Road, is that you, Paul? Or because I thought you had your database or data bus YouTube channel, so I don't know if that's Paul or not. Steve is new, Rico's new, Mohammed's new, Kevin's new. What else we got? Kaziraj is new. I see a lot of ancients. New a while back, Christian. Nice. Data on the Road is Paul. Okay, good to have you, Paul. So of note, Paul, Data on the Road, because I know you're a member. If you're on that profile, you're not going to be able to talk in the member-only streams. You have to switch over to your Paul Turley profile to do that. So Kana's new, Jan's new. Excellent. Lots of new people. I think you brought out the new folks, Alberto.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, and also special shout out to the members of GuineCube. You help us do what we do here on GuineCube. We appreciate it so much. If you see folks with the green name or the GuineCube logo next to their name, those are members of GuineCube. And yeah, they just help us do everything that we do here. If you see the link on the screen, or you can hit the join button down below to learn more about it. No commitment necessary. We just really appreciate it, and thank you so much. All right, for the questions, put Q colon in front of the question. Chatmaster C is standing by to get them queued up. Please only have to do it one time. Please don't spam the question. We do have a 3 strikes rule here on GuineCube. 3 strikes and you are put in a timeout if you start spamming chat. So be aware of that. Chatmaster C and any of the moderators, so folks with like a blue name or a wrench next to their name, they have the ability to put you in a timeout. So be ready for that. All right. Wow. And Wyatt just kicking it off real fast with a super chat. Thank you so much, Wyatt. Very much appreciated.
Did you see what Chatmaster C said?
No, what did Chatmaster C? Alberto, you made yeah, she made me cry yesterday.
What did I do yesterday?
Oh, it's just what you said in the we'll get to it. I'll tell the story. And then Brock with a super chat as well. Yo to you, Brock. Thank you so much. Also of note, if you have a burning question, whether it's in the first half or the second half, just know that super chats always take priority. So be aware of that. All right. Love it. All right. Are you guys ready to get in the questions? Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Also, we're going to be prioritizing like DAX and data modeling questions. So if those run out, we'll grab some others. But I want to make sure we take advantage of Alberto being here. So, all right, let's start it off with Matthias as usual. Let's go with
As usual.
why did DAX blossom in Power BI but not in Excel? Where do you see DAX in 5 years?
Whoa.
That's a heavy question.
I think that's an interesting question. Now, I don't know all the details about that, but I heard, so just take it as some whispering, that DAX actually was designed as being a kind of replacement for the Excel formula language, and that's the reason why both languages starts with an equal sign. But as you can guess, there's no way DAX will ever be able to replace the Excel formula language because, I mean, the Excel formula language is quite simple. DAX, not really. A lot of people struggle with DAX. So it started within Excel with Power Pivot for Excel, then it moved to analysis services and to Power BI just because it was more convenient to have it there. Therefore, it didn't blossom because the Excel formula language is so cool and people don't want to move away from that. And I totally understand that. I mean, I wouldn't like to have the need to write DAX every time I build a simple Excel file. That would be too complex.
Yeah.
Whereas where do I see DAX in 5 years from now? I have no idea, but I do hope it has a bright future, of course, because I don't want to spend time writing other books about new languages. I think it...
Well, you know, Alberto, there's that AI-driven DAX, right? It's going to put you out of a job.
Yeah, no, that's going to put myself out of the job, not DAX. So at the end, I will still write DAX. And I mean, I don't think it's good that you'll make me talk about AI-driven DAX.
I'm sorry.
No. Everything is fine, but I mean, I still have to see the intelligent part of AI. But anyway, I mean, what I think is that DAX will naturally evolve over the time. There are new features which are coming. There are new functionalities that are coming to DAX. What I do hope is that it doesn't get harder than it is right now. So making it more powerful always means introducing new concepts that might make it even harder than it is now. So I think DAX should just stay there, waiting for people to reach a good level of knowledge of it. And then new features are very welcome. But I think that if in 5 years nothing happens, that will be just fine.
I just hope we get time intelligence over direct query. That's what I like.
Yeah. You don't want me to talk about direct query?
No, I don't want you to talk about that either. Awesome. All right. Let's see. Evan's got a question. Will recursion ever come to DAX? If yes, when? If no, why?
Oh, recursion. Recursion would be lovely to have in DAX. The thing is, recursion was there in MDX, and it was a nightmare, both from the performance point of view and from the complexity of the code that you can write. As much as I love recursion, I mean, my PhD thesis was about functional languages and recursion everywhere and this stuff. So I love recursion, but it's really hard. Therefore, I don't think recursion will ever hit DAX because of the complexity in the language and because of speed. I mean, as soon as you introduce recursion, performance becomes a serious issue to handle.
Yeah, I agree. Anything to add, Patrick?
No. I remember trying to do it in MDX, and it was a nightmare. It was awful. And so let's keep it out of DAX. DAX is already challenging enough. Yeah. So
yes,
as Adam knows,
I learned that. Yes, We'll get there.
Yeah, but what I hope is that DAX doesn't follow the same path of MDX, because MDX was all powerful. It contains a lot of features, and at the end, it's really complex. I remember the fear of opening the MDX script of somebody else. You had no option of understanding the intricate logic of everything. Now, I cannot say that with DAX everything is different. When you open the code of somebody else, you still have to struggle a bit, but much less than with MDX.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and I remember looking at. I didn't do a lot of MDX, but the little I did when I looked at it, I'm like, because I was coming from my T-SQL background, and then I see MDX, and I'm like, what is? I couldn't wrap my head around it.
So it's tough. It's tough.
All right. Akshay's got a question. How do you get an analysis services model refresh date time in a Power BI report?
Got a video on that.
Well, I mean, from this standpoint, I mean, it should be a field in the model, I would think. And then either just grab that field or have a measure around it or something of that nature. Unless we're missing something.
Refresh.
So this may be like if
Go
ahead.
I think the only problem with that is, I mean, you could be the calculated column containing now, so that when you recompute that, you get the daytime. But I don't remember the detail. I remember Power BI Desktop refreshing the model even when it was not supposed to do that, like on open or in specific scenarios. We had the discussion with Jeffrey, and it was by design. So the table was recomputed upon model opening. Then I don't remember all the details about that.
Yeah, so I've always done it from a Power Query standpoint, not a calculated table. Yeah, I mean, you could do it either way. So the other way I'm phrasing this question is, or I'm thinking about this question is, they don't have that, and they're looking to see how do I find out the actual last time it refreshed or processed. So I think that's where they're coming from, not so much like if we had the column, because it's easy if you already have it in a table. So, and I don't know if that's available. I don't think that's available in like any DMV or anything that you can grab. But even then, you wouldn't be able
to... I don't remember. There are some dates, like the last time table was processed.
How would you get that from a Power BI standpoint, though?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
That might be an unplugged. That's just me browsing the internet
trying to
find the answer.
There you go. So yeah, I would just do it from like Power Query or a calculated table. Just have whatever the now time is, and then bam, that's the last time it refreshed. Easy peasy.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Let's go. So many questions. All right, Gus has got a two-parter here. I'll ask my semi-additive measure question for the guy that's gotten me this far. Is there a standardized way to show growth in semi-additive measures? Second part is, I've used your DAX patterns to get the growth year-to-date, month-to-date, week-over-week, or World of Warcraft, whatever the flavor is. But would also like to show those same measures with different as-of dates.
Now, here, before answering, I have a very simple question. What is a different as-of date? Can you just rephrase that for me?
So would that be something like a slowly changing dimension, like a date off of a slowly changing dimension, or?
What I think he means is, instead of saying today, instead of as of year-to-date as of today, year-to-date as of some dynamic date that you can specify.
Okay.
Anyway, whenever we talk about semi-additive calculations, they quickly turn into a nightmare, because just understanding what you want to produce as a result is really, really tough. You might have transactions that are not in the current period, so you need to search for the previous last value that were available, or you need, you need to spend really a lot of time just to figure out what to produce. When it comes to the growth, that should just be the difference between the previous date and the current date, or whatever as-of date you have. So you subtract one from the other, and then you turn that into a percentage or whatever. Anyway, keep in mind that whenever I work with customers that have semi-additive calculations, my suggestion is always that of getting rid of semi-additive calculation entirely. Because if instead of having the value, the snapshot of a value, you have just the delta between the 2 points in time, then it's just a sum. And whatever calculation you have turns out to be a simple sum of the period, or a running total from the beginning of time. But it's always a simple sum. So it is so much easier to build any kind of calculation. You just slightly change the model, and you change the source of your data. It might be the case that you have a snapshot and you can compute the deltas and store them instead of the snapshot. That solves most of the problem, both from the DAX point of view and from the performance point of view of semi-additive, because semi-additives are quite heavy from the DAX standpoint.
Yep. Yeah, I know that came up last week, and we were like, "Ooh, that's an interesting question." And I see, Johnny, I saw you trying to troll me in the chat, asking what was harder, DAX or Kerberos. It's like Kerberos. It just works. Exactly. All right. So Prabhakar, how to get rolling average of weeks? Group it by 3 months.
So you want to group weeks by 3 months? I'm trying to understand what you probably want the weekly average of the last 3 months. That might be the case. So if that is what you want, then well, first of all, you need to decide what a month is, because it doesn't make sense to make a weekly average over 3 months that have a period that can split weeks. So if you define a month as 4 weeks, then that becomes a weekly average over the last 12 weeks. That makes a lot more sense. So you always have a given number of dates. It's always the same. It always contains an integer number of weeks where every week is complete.
Right.
So you basically need to do two steps. First of all, you create a filter context that contains the last 12 weeks, and that is just a matter of using either dates in period, or you follow the pattern that we have for the weekly calendar in DAX pattern, and you create a filter context that limits only to 12 weeks your period. And then over that, you iterate week by week and you compute your average. Or you just compute the entire sum and you divide it by 12, because you know that there are 12 weeks. So you already know the given number. That shouldn't be that hard. I think we made some video about rolling averages, but I don't remember that. By the way, you both, Guy and Ekip, do you remember the videos that you made? Because I completely lost control. I have no idea what
most
I did.
of them we remember. Well,
No, I don't.
so there's
Alberto.
times, yes, Patrick, there's times where we say something, you're like, you made a video on that, and I'm like, I did, and then vice versa.
Yeah,
so
it's
we have
difficult.
alternating memories.
It's difficult.
Yeah,
How many
but
videos do we have now?
I don't know, like over 700.
Yeah, so it's
can't
like when you
You can't
reboot,
remember.
the memory gets flushed, Alberto. It gets flushed when
what
I go to
happens?
sleep at night.
Yeah. So I don't remember the exact video, but what happens is I'll remember like the topic or the theme of it. And I'm like, didn't we have a video on it? And then I'll go search for that specific thing, and then I'll either find it or not.
Yeah.
Unless it's recent.
Yeah,
Like if it's in the last 3 months, I remember it.
Yeah, I mean, last 3 months, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the number of times that I had to search in my articles and the number of times that I don't find them. I mean, I should have written somewhere. I tried all different titles and I simply don't find what I wrote.
Yeah, it happens. So I remember I was in support one time, and this is back when I was doing blogging before videos, and I'm like, I was searching for something, and I started reading this blog. I'm like, oh man, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm like, man, this person put a lot of detail in this. Who wrote this? I get down to the bottom, like, oh, it was me. I'm like, all right. That's why I did it. So, and I tell people I've got a direct query mine, not an import mine. So it's like I go back to the source. It's fine. So, all right. Fabri's got a question. This is an interesting one. Does anyone know how to list all tabular models and analysis services with their respective memory sizes? Ooh, that was interesting. I had this question come up on the from a Power BI perspective. They were asking how to do this from like the REST APIs in Power BI. And I'm like, well, the get dataset call doesn't actually list out the memory size. So there are DMVs where you can go get it. But you have to do it from an XMLA endpoint standpoint.
Are we talking on disk or in memory?
Well, that's the other thing, right? So, yeah. I honestly
probably on memory.
Yeah, I'd rather the in-memory size. So,
if you want them on
would
disk, you
be-
just go on the folder and then you start browsing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
How
I
would you
think
get
that
it?
there are DMVs that return all
Yes,
this
the
information,
DMVs.
and I think Casper
don't-
a lot of time ago built an Excel file that did exactly this. It
Yes.
retrieved all the information
did.
from.
Casper, link your blog. He's in the chat. Oh,
He did write a blog post on this.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and that was simple, effective, and probably by inspecting the DMV that he called, you have the option of replicating that.
Yep. So cool. All right. Let's see here. I'm trying to find. Oh, here we go. Bruce has got a good one. How are we doing on time? We got.
I'm
time.
gonna look for Casper's
We got
blog.
time. Well, Casper can look for Casper's blog. He's in the chat. Or I don't think Alex is in the chat. Oh no, Alex is on
not here.
vacation. Alex is on vacation right
Yeah.
now. All right. So
That
Bruce
is cool.
Bruce has got a question. Which is preferable, a filtered sum x or an unfiltered sum x in a calculate where the filter is applied there? On what does it depend? Because he knows it depends.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading the same. I mean, he already gave the answer. It
Yes,
depends.
it depends.
And then it all goes from what? It depends on many factors. And what you need to do is look at the query plan, because this is what happens. If you place, if you write a filtered sum x, then the engine will try to push the condition down to the storage engine by applying the condition inside the loop that the storage engine is doing, scanning your model. So if your condition is a very simple one, like a column greater than another column, or a column divide a mathematical expression that can be computed by the Vertipack engine, then a filter sum x works perfectly fine, and you have no issues there. If you use calculate with the filter applied later, the optimizer is kind of good at pushing down the query, but it might also choose to materialize that as a filter in calculate. And at that point, it depends on how large that filter is. If, again, it's a simple condition, you have no issues. If it is not, then you might end up building a materialized table that will be pushed down to the Vertipack engine later and produce a worse execution path. But in my experience, what you need to, I mean, there's no way you can answer directly, because if it's a very, very simple calculation, then the optimizer will make it very quickly. If it's a complex calculation, you should try both. Look at the XM SQL queries which are generated and find the one that best fit your needs. Because you never know which path the optimizer will take. And besides, these things change so frequently that you always need to double check that over time.
Yep.
I think I've seen examples of both scenarios where in some scenario one was better than the other and vice versa. So it's really a matter of trying.
Yes. Agree. That's the thing. Like there were a couple things, Patrick and I've worked on, and I was many conversations with customers where they're asking me, well, which one's better? And I'm like, I don't know. I've got to go look at the numbers. I have no idea. I'm like, it really depends on your data and, what's your query patterns and everything else. So I'm like, let's try it. I've got nothing.
Yeah, but
else.
that's the problem. I mean, I've seen so many times pieces of code that look perfect on a data model, and the very same code on a different data model with just different data distribution really sucks because the number of values in the columns are different. So you really need to fine tune it for the specific model you have.
Yes, agreed. So always verify. So cool. All right, Tristan, I hope you're well. How many Power BI models using aggregations did you put in production? What do you think about Power BI aggregations? I know Patrick and I have some thoughts, but we'll go with you first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's not the kind of question that I can answer at all. I don't put anything in production. I just try to fix problems.
Marcos telling you to use calculate.
I mean, there's always the guy that pretends to know something more about somebody else.
Hush it, Marco. Hush it.
That guy that you have seen on the screen for a while does not remember a specific exercise that we have in the Optimizing DAX training, where you actually need to do the opposite, because if you place the condition in calculate, it gets materialized, and if you put it inside filter, then it's better. So actually, Despite I like that guy, I don't think he's right. Let's go back to Tristan.
Yeah, sorry,
This is much
Tristan's
more
question.
interesting.
Aggregations.
Yeah, I mean, that's for you guys.
So-
I never put anything in production.
Well, that's good
we
to know
know-
that Marco or Alberto hasn't done that. So that's interesting. So I know Patrick and I both
We
have.
know. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We know. I don't know the number, Tristan, but we know lots of customers that are using
Have many
aggregations. I
customers.
mean, I can think of more than 20 probably
Yeah.
off the top of my head that are using aggregations. And what I think about ags, well, I mean, if they're used properly, and, you know,
They can be really
if they
powerful.
fit the scenario, fit the situation, they work.
Well, and so the other thing we've done too, especially when you get into those larger models where, look, we can't import everything, and the direct query aspect of it tends to be, look, we're hitting performance issues, and so we use ags to balance that, right? So think of I heard something this week that I really loved, where like instead of thinking of your data source in a silo and Power BI in a silo, use the best of both to produce the solution that you're trying to create. And so leverage the features in Power BI that make sense, leverage the features in your data source that makes sense, and get them to work together. So you need to have some folks in the project that understand the aspects of both to make that really work. There was a customer I was working with where they were going from Power BI and trying to do Synapse. And again, they were doing all direct query, and it wasn't leveraging what they were told we could do. And so with the combination of ags and, you know, the data latency was fine, everything worked out great, and we were able to really push that project way, way beyond like what they thought was possible.
Yeah, you won't see tons and tons of customers because it's a niche thing, right? It's a very specific use case to solve a very specific problem. If you don't have large volumes of data, if you don't need them, don't just use them.
Well,
because
so
it's
what's
there.
interesting though, Patrick, I don't know, I think you did a video on this way back when, going back to, do we remember the videos we do? You did one where you came at it from the context of they were a pro user and they wanted to stay under the 1 gig, but the way their refresh was going to go, they were going to go over, and you were like, use ags. Like, let's just,
Use
you know,
ags.
do you need all that data in there? And then bam, we took it from like, it was like a 700 or 800 meg model down to like 50 meg. So
I
and it was,
remember that. I thought, yep.
yeah. So it's like, so it's not just a large scale thing either. It's like, how do we fit in the limitations of what we have access to? And so ags is not a
that's
premium
true.
feature, so you can take advantage of that. Right? So
Just go turn on auto ags on all your models. Just turn on auto ags and you'll be okay.
well, that's data source dependent though. So all right. Chatmaster C has given the green light for the members. So for anyone that has that we didn't get to answer your question, I apologize for that. We never get to all the questions. Good discussion though. Please come back next time and we'll try and get that question as well. We are going over to member only chat. So this is where members and moderators will be able to participate in the chat. Other folks will still be able to watch the stream and watch the chat, but won't be able to actually comment in the chat. If you do have a burning question, super chats always take priority. If you do a super chat, make sure you have a question, make sure you type it in before you hit the button. Otherwise, it won't end well. Okay, let's cut over to members. We are good. So members, get your questions in. Chatmaster C is going to queue them up. One of the benefits of being a member of GuineCube, if you're on the visitor or the producer tiers, you can pre-submit questions. And we do have a pre-submitted question this week. Do we really want to show it? Do we?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
just because I was looking at my solution and I thought maybe it's wrong, but I don't know.
no.
So let's
We
look
know
at
mine
that.
is wrong.
Interesting.
Well, it's not. All right, we'll get into it. All right, hang
It's
on.
not wrong.
It's not wrong. It's
Yours
not
is
wrong.
fine.
All right. So Laura sent us in one. We tried to get to it last week, but we were still working on it. But I managed to get it done earlier this week, and then I sent it to Alberto. He had a similar but different outlook on it. So she said, I'm looking to match employees with skills at a particular level to job requirements of skills at a particular level. The goal is to find a match based on skill percent at the level they have the skill. I know that's a lot, so we've got more here. So let me go over to my desktop, and I'm gonna show what Laura sent us, and then I'll show you what I came up with very quickly, and then we'll get to Alberto. So originally, actually, before I show the measure, let me kind of show what we're talking about here. So the given skills will have a skill name and a level associated with it. The employees will also have like where they match up to that skill. So DAX requires level 2. And so like for Alice, she only has, she doesn't even have the DAX skill. M, she only has a level 1. And for this job, it requires a M of level skill 2. And so the challenge here, though, is that Alice for this job, should technically be at a 33%. So trust me on that. Based on everything, the goal here is that it should be 33%, not 67%. And what Laura was working on here was, what she was doing is everything here is based on the skill part, right? So it's not accounting for the level. So the question here really is, how do I account for the skill and the level of both what's required and what the employee has to get the right value? So Patrick and I were banging our heads against this, and what I came up with, a couple things here I'm just going to talk about real quick. It's fine. That's fine. So I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, well, how would I get this? And I was thinking, well, maybe I could use generate, and we could do some things there to pull these items in. But then because of what I was trying to do down below, or try to do some things with treat as, I had treat as stuck in my head, and that was part of my problem. And so I couldn't, the way I could reference it, it didn't work if I was using generate, but it did work if I used add column. So I went with that. And then from a filter perspective, once I had this list, I ended up going with this filter equation, thinking in my head, and I told Patrick this because he's like, whoa, you did that? And I'm like, well, it's technically an and condition based on what I did. And then I sent it to Alberto. I showed him what I did, and he showed me what he did. And he told me, he's like, well, he's like, what you're doing is not going to account for level and skill at the same time. And I replied back with, well, it should be an and in that condition. And then that made him do a double take. And he's like, you are correct. However, doing the filter on the table is bad. And he didn't expect me to do something that bad. And I really wasn't just thinking about it either. So this is technically correct. It's technically correct, but don't use it. Because it's not, and I actually looked at what Alberto sent me and what I had. So I was just like, well, let's just see how, because before he told me all of that, I got super excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this like works. And all right, I want to see like which one's faster. I'm going to look at Alberto's plus mine, look at the server timings, and let's just see. And I'm like, ooh, oh no, mine is not good. We were on the phone. On the phone. Yeah, I was like, that was not good. It was not good. Alberto's was way faster.
But wait, when you read Alberto's comment, show us the facial expression. Show us how you looked when you.
Oh, I was so happy. Like Patrick could even tell you the range of emotions I had on this whole thing. I'm like, yes, I got it. And then Alberto sent his. I'm like, oh, like, you know, his is faster. That's okay. We still got to the same thing. And then the other part of that, and that's when I was like, So it's all good. It's all good. All right. So Alberto, why don't you show us what you did, and we'll walk through that aspect of it.
See.
It's gonna share a screen here so I can kick over it. Yeah, it was good
you
fun.
See my screen?
No, I do not.
Because I need to click on share.
You do have, yeah.
Now that I did
There we go. There we go. All right. Going over to Alberto's machine. You're up.
Here we are. Now, let me tell you, first of all, that I love this question because, I mean, Laura described it so nicely with the expected result that it was
easy
really
to understand the problem.
Yeah, and besides providing the answer here, that provides a huge value.
Yes.
Anyway, what I did is you summarize a lot of time here because I first compute these variable skills required. Actually, this part is not needed. Job request is the job required. So I scan the job required and I retrieve the ID and the level. So at the end, skills required contains the skill ID and the levels that are required. But you notice that I'm filtering I'm retrieving the skill ID, and the job required level. So the ID is from the skill table, because I was thinking about using that in a filter that actually I didn't do later. Then this is just the ID and the level required. Later, I will generate for each skill required. I just summarize the employee skills, so the skills of the employees, which is currently being filtered by the filter context, and I retrieve the ID and the level. But I only retrieve that row if the ID of the employee is equal to the ID that is required, and the level is greater or equal the level that is required. Therefore, this entire filter, this part, returns a row only if for that employee there is a skill that is with a level higher than the required one. If not, then the row from skill required will not be returned. So at the end, inside skill required, inside skill available, I only have the skill out of the required ones for which there is a match in the employee skills. And the last thing is just counting the number of rows here with the number of rows there, and that gives you the percent in a simple way. And it's important that you match both the ID and the level at the same time, because you do that row by row. And yeah, that's it. It's simple. Here you see we have a lower result than the correct one here.
Let me ask you a question, Alberto. So this generate, I've never used generate. I've never ever used generate in my DAX.
It's such a pity. It's likely to be my personal favorite DAX function. Generate is an iterator. It scans the skill required table, row by row, and then for each row of skill required, it evaluates the second argument that needs to be a table expression. That table expression can return 0 row, 1 row, or multiple rows. If it contains 0 row, then that row of skill required will not be returned. If it returns 1 row or multiple rows, then the rows in skill required and the result of filter, they are joined together, and you obtain a table that contains all the columns of skill required plus all the columns of the result of the second expression at the same time. It's the outer apply in SQL. In SQL, you do outer apply. In DAX, you use generate. The thing is, most people do not use outer apply in SQL. That's why they do not use generate, because they are not familiar with the concept of joining a table with an expression that is evaluated row by row for each row of the first table.
Yeah.
But it's actually extremely powerful.
I do this with SQL all the time. It's a piece of cake. It's so simple to do this with SQL. This is great. This is great. This is just going to be something added to the old tool belt now. I'm going to go and tinker with some generate. This is phenomenal, Alberto.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm looking at that, you can probably obtain the same result using contains or using in different ways. So I wrote it this way, but that was actually the first version that came out of my mind. It can probably be written in a better way, but I don't think we have time to do that because that will steal most of the time of out of the chat.
Yes, and I saw Casper was asking to show the numbers. So do we want to see the numbers of Alberto's versus
let's see the numbers.
Patrick or versus Adams? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chat. What do you think? Do you want to see the numbers? The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Anthony says show the numbers. All right. Let's go. Yes. All right. I'm seeing a resounding yes. Show the numbers. There we go. Alberto's on the left, Adam on the right.
You're like 4 times the number of storage engine queries.
It's hey. I'm 17 milliseconds, man. That's blazing fast. Who cares?
Hey, at least you got it, because I didn't even get it.
I did get it.
At least you got it.
Oh boy. Yeah. So this is just a good example of like taking, so I took the query from Performance Analyzer, and this is what we do all the time to validate of getting that query. And what I'm doing here is I'm just switching out the measure. So there's Alberto's, there's Adams, and running server timings. So I cleared cache and ran it. There we go. Now I can actually see which one's performing better, and I can actually define the measure here, do some tweaking, and go from there. So yeah, it's
wow, that's
bananas,
awesome,
the
man.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ah.
great.
That was good. That was good. So Laura, she has both of them, by the way, and I told her don't use mine. Use Alberto's.
No,
Don't use mine. Don't use mine. All right. So Brock, you had a super chat in there. Thank you so much with a question. I gotta find it because the chat went nuts. Here we go. Let's see. Is there anything I can do to prevent a timeout when viewing a report? If the website is left open for a while and then I click on a selection to drill through, I got cut off. I think I know where you're going though. What I think, what would have happened? Because so is it possible maybe the model got evicted in the time that you were sitting there? Sessions could have timed out. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there that I don't know. Like if you're leaving that browser just sitting there for a while, I mean, the session is going to time out.
Yep.
So
that's a good thing, though. You want the session to time out.
I know.
You don't want somebody to come after you.
Yes.
And if you left it open, you don't want somebody to come up behind you and possibly,
Yeah, I mean,
some data.
Honestly, I would refresh the browser anyway if it's been sitting there for. It depends on how long is a while. So if you've let it sit there for a few hours, I would absolutely refresh the browser anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah.
All right.
So Alberto, you should do unplugged or an article or something on Generate. I'm just saying.
He's got an article.
Unless you already have one.
He's got an article.
Oh, there's an article.
Yeah, okay. Generate versus add columns.
Yeah, there is that article, and they use it in a few places. But I mean, you are right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, because it's a powerful function, and most people don't use it. But you know what? Most people do not think about creating their own tables in measures to compute values and do operation on there. As soon as you start using tables in your measure, Generate comes out quite naturally.
Well, and that's where when Patrick and I were looking at it, because Patrick was struggling with this one, and then I showed what I did with add columns, and I did tell him, look, I tried to go down the Generate route first. And when he saw what I did there, he's like, oh my gosh, he's like, this is like almost exactly what I would do in SQL. Like if I was trying to do a T-SQL statement, I'm just going through those steps of trying to filter things. And I'm like,
Because
but
like,
as I said, I think I use Generate. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go, Alberto. You go.
I go. I think the reason why I use Generate is because at the beginning, when I started thinking of the code, I had a completely different algorithm in mind. What I wanted to do was generating the set of skills that are greater or equal than the current set, and then do an intersection between the two sets where Generate would be actually needed. Whereas in this specific case, I can just use an in statement or check using contains whether the table contains that skill and remove it from the skills.
Cool. All right. Laura, thank you for the super chat. Hopefully that was enlightening to you. And then also, Jacob, thank you for becoming a member. And Zeba, thank you for rejoining. Very much appreciated.
This is interesting.
All right.
I hope this doesn't take my whole Saturday. I hope this Generate doesn't take my whole Saturday.
I hope it does. So, alrighty. All right, Paul Turley up with a question here. Let's see. Alberto, do you think that Composite Models Gen 2 is ready for production use? I don't know what we mean by Gen 2. How close are we in your question? Oh, the direct query over Power BI datasets. Got it.
Yeah, that nobody calls direct query over Power BI dataset. Everybody calls them composite models. So he's perfectly right about that.
Yes. Yes.
We started a war about that.
Yes.
Now, Paul, I think, well, the first question is, why do you ask that to me at all? Because I have no idea about the plans from Microsoft. And even if I had, of course, I cannot disclose anything about what is happening there.
Paul knows this too, by the way.
I mean, they've been working on composite model for quite a while. They've been out for quite a while. There are still scenarios which are not perfect, not from the point of view of functionality, meaning that they work pretty well. Performance are quite good, but it's still, we see a lot of that are happy with some. It depends, yeah. There are still some details that are they are working on them. I have absolutely no idea when they will be released as generally available. I know that there are still some details that need to be fixed, and I'm quite scared of when they will be available because the optimization part of a composite model is really complex.
Yes.
You can make
also
it really shy.
Yeah, the optimization. So, and also if you don't know where Alberto's coming from, think about like the diagnosing. Like if there's a problem, like how do you trace that through and figure out where the bottleneck is? That's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Besides writing, the same DAX piece of DAX code can be lightning fast on a import model, and then you place the very same DAX code in the composite model, and it goes very, very slow because the size of the filters that move back and forth is insane. For example, if you filter a table in Calculate, that is a huge mistake in composite models. Just saying, I know you don't place filters on tables, but just in case.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, and the thing that really worries me in some discussions about like having multiple. So if you think of like, oh, I've got this one giant model, but it naturally has like different islands inside of it. Like, well, let's just split those out to their own models and then use composite models to just bring them all back together. And that's where I'm like, you've got to be really careful and thoughtful about that scenario. Like if you're trying to join all of that stuff up, and just the fact that we're sending things across for that filter, like that could become a performance bottleneck for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm scared by zealots that start to redesign their entire data structure based on this. Like we build a model with only the data, then we create a composite model with only the measures, and then another composite model with some other tables. Performance will be absolutely awful at that point. Yeah. So just don't do that.
Yes.
Stay calm and let's understand exactly how to take advantage of them.
Yep.
And then
when I think I heard, I think it was Jeffrey Wang was talking about, think about in using it to enrich a model, not necessarily to join like a ton of different islands. So like think of like the central IT or the central group, or the central BI group, they put together this model for the business. And then I think about like if you're in a given line of business or maybe a smaller team where you're like, look, I want to bring in this Excel file. Maybe it's an additive dimension to help filter things down a little more to where it relates to my team. And so you're adding a dimension to that to help with that. Whereas that may make more sense than trying to do a bunch of different, large islands.
No, but
together.
I think Jeffrey's completely right. Think about the feature to enrich an existing model, not as a design principle. It's not part of the design of your architecture. You don't design using composite model. You design a regular model, then you want to enrich it a bit. Composite model makes sense.
Right. Yep. Cool. All right. Fernando's got one. What do you think is the main constraint to having username or user principal name as part of a calculated table or column? Do you think it's feasible?
I don't know what you could ever do with that, because
I don't know that it would even work.
When you compute a calculated column, there's no user.
Yeah, there's no user.
So you cannot have a name for username because there's nobody connected to the model. It's just the system that is updating it.
Yeah, so that's more of a
cannot be that.
That's more of a runtime function than a processing related item. So I would not do that from a processing standpoint or refresh standpoint. You can use it in a measure for sure, but
yeah.
Cool.
It would be nice to have if you had something like a dynamic calculated column that is computed on the fly as part of the query. That would be nice, but we don't have them right now. Calculated columns are computed when they are. So
yes. Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's see here. David. If I migrate a Analysis Services 2016 tabular model directly to Premium by just using Tabular Editor to change the compatibility level, am I going to have a bad time? It seems it just works. Before Alberto answers, I'm just going to throw this out there. It depends.
It does depend.
Like,
Why
maybe?
not? No, I mean, what might be wrong? It should just work. I don't see a reason why that shouldn't work.
It just
But
depends
maybe
on
I'm missing
complexity of
something.
things
Yeah.
also, though.
Yeah.
The
I agree.
complexity of your
did a
partition
bit about that.
strategy. Say it again.
No, I mean, you made a video about that. I don't know. Or maybe I just didn't understand.
Somewhere. Chris Wagner made a video about migrating. Chris Wagner made one
Yeah.
going from AS to
Yes.
Premium. But it's the complexities. Adam and I did some tinkering with this at work. And if it's simple, if your
it should
model's
just
not
work.
too complex, it really does work. But when you have some complex partitioning strategies and things like that, depending on if you're trying to implement incremental refresh, on top of that model, I mean, you could run into some things. But if it's just a straight migration and it's not too complex, it should just work.
My advice there is try it and see if it works. If you do get an error or failure, you've got to investigate what that is and what do we need to change to make it work. So it really just depends. So, yep. All right, little Panda Club. Thank you for the super chat. I love the cube. I do too. By the way, this is all changing up this weekend. I'm rearranging. Patrick got me going.
Really?
He changed his stuff, so I'm like, oh, I want to change mine. Yeah.
Patrick went very serious with that dark background.
Oh, he's not done yet.
pockets anywhere.
He's not done. He's not.
It's not done?
No. There's some shelving or stuff that's going to come in. There's more to come. There's more to come.
Stuff that's going to come. Yeah.
Same with mine. It's
Okay.
going to be it's going to come in phases. So I'm going to do the move. We're going to work on getting some shelves as well, and so it'll be an overtime thing. So, yes.
Cool.
Yes. All right. Let's see here. Michael, what's the purpose of is in scope and how do you use it? Ooh. Ooh. You've got some good articles on this stuff
That
too.
made me realize that maybe we haven't done any video or any article about is in scope.
You have done articles on it for sure.
I did. Okay.
You did. Or
That I
one
don't
of you
remember.
did. One of you did.
Anyway,
Don't know if there's been
Is in
a
scope
big
does-
video on it.
I don't remember. I totally don't remember. Anyway, what is in scope does is kind of similar to has one value. So it checks that the column that you pass as a parameter has only one value in the current filter context. And that's the first thing that it does. And it is mainly used when you want to detect the level in a hierarchy that you are inside a matrix. So let's say that you create a matrix that goes by category, subcategory, and then product name, and you want different values to be shown at the product level, at the subcategory level, and at the category level. When that happens, you need to use is in scope to understand which level of the hierarchy you are in. Previously, we were used to use has one value because when you are filtering only one product, then you might be, you believe that you are at the product level. The thing is that has one value returns you true if you have only one value. Is in scope actually returns always that guy. Is in scope actually returns you true if you have only one value and the column that you pass is currently used as a group by column in the summarize or summarize column that is used earlier. That gives you a better control about the difference between having only one value because some filtering created only one row visible, or because you're actually grouping by that column and you have only one row visible. So you mainly use is in scope to find whether you are currently grouping at that level and you are at the right level. And also, everybody wrote about is in scope, but I didn't remember about
It
anybody.
was a big
not
deal
even
when
myself.
it came. Yeah, it was a big deal when it came.
Yeah, because it solved a very practical problem.
Yep. All right. Good. All right, Zeba. Let's see. I have a table with region, market category, and brand. which is at the lowest level along with sales. Can I only show the top 5 of brands within each level and the rest mapped to other as total?
As total. Yes,
grouping
you
and
can.
binning, or
I mean, we made a video about that, how to show the top end plus a row for others. The code is quite intricate, so get ready to spend some time studying the details because it took me years to find that solution. It was one of the things that I always had in my mind and never been able to solve. When I solved it, I was super happy, and the code is not simple at all, but you can do that through DAX. I really wish that Microsoft at some point adds the others row to the top end as part of the regular filtering. I mean, that shouldn't be so hard.
hey, Alberto, ideas.powerbi.com.
If you write it on ideaspowerbi.com, then you might have the option. No, but you know what? It surprised me that the top end and others, despite being extremely complex, it's one of our most successful videos. So a lot of people are actually using that technique. That means it's a feature that probably is strongly needed.
Yeah.
If anybody from Microsoft is listening, I don't know.
There's many.
Maybe.
There's several. All right, Rishi, I hope you're doing well, buddy. I have a scenario when I need to apply a dynamic RLS filter on a combination of dimension attributes. I had this issue too, where I had to do it at the fact table because of I couldn't figure out how to get it to span the different tables from within the RLS. So a user can see customer A in country X, but not country Y. What would be the best approach? So his isn't necessarily what I was hitting. I was hitting different tables.
Yeah, different tables or different attributes, because if it's just different attributes on the same table, you apply a filter that filters both,
right?
And that should be fine. If on the other hand, you have 2 different tables, that's harder. So either you go at the fact table as you did, or you build an intermediate tables if you want to reduce the granularity of the filtering, and you don't want to do that on the fact table. That depends on the complexity of the size of your fact table, the complexity of the condition. But if it's just 2 attributes in the same column,
and I will tell you, when the one scenario I worked on where we had to do it at the fact table, it was slow. It was a perf hit.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate. So, all right, cool. We're bumping up against the clock. Let's get another one in here, Thomas.
Really? Oh my.
Yeah, it goes by fast. Oh, here you go, Patrick. You're going to get in on this one. Can you describe a problem where treat as is the solution? Well, I will tell you that treat as should not have been the solution I used for Laura. Okay, go Alberto.
Well, there are actually a lot of scenarios where treat as is extremely powerful. Treat as lets you change the data lineage of a table so that it filters a model. So a lot of times you end up computing a table, not just by scanning a model table, but by actually computing it in whatever way. And then you want to use this table as a filter. The semi-additive calculation we were talking previously is exactly one of those scenarios. You want to show for each customer the last date for which you have data for that customer. So you end up building a table that contains the customer and the last date. But this last date, not being a column in the model, is computed by an expression. So that date will not be able to filter the model. That is why you use treat as to change the lineage and make it sure that you have a customer name, a date that is able to filter the date table, and you build a table that actually can filter the model through calculate. Therefore, it's going to be very fast. Treat as is useful in a lot of scenarios. Sometimes you grab values from a table, you want to place a filter on another table, and you cannot build the relationship for whatever reason. Again, treat as proves to be useful. Yep. There are really a lot of scenarios. It's one of the many tools in your tool belt. So once you start learning how to use it, you use it whenever needed.
Patrick has a love fest with treat as now. That's like his sweet mistress.
And so Paul just said what I was saying. It's like for virtual relationships. If you're that's a good article. So with Laura's problem, I went straight to the virtual relationship article because I was like, I need to create a virtual relationship. but I couldn't because of the inequality. I didn't need equality. I need also an inequality, and I couldn't do that with the treat as. But I didn't know about generate, but now I do. Now I do. Now I do.
Yeah, or maybe just think about building a relationship based on two columns that you cannot do. So with treat as, you just scan a table, grab the pairs of the two values, and then treat as changes the lineage. You push it to the other table, and you build a relationship, a virtual relationship, quite easily.
Yep.
No, it's great. Great.
All right, so we are at time, but Little Panda Club just did another super chat and had a question. Can you guys give me an elevator pitch for like your backgrounds, like where you come from? She's learned, or not she, but I don't know if it's a she or he, but they've learned so much from this channel. So real quick, my background: I never went to college. It's all self-taught. Taught myself how to code. Just love tech and like just pushed myself in those areas. I always looked for the white space or the areas of opportunity and just became the expert on it. So that's why I love Kerberos. So Patrick, what about you?
Oh, I have a master's degree actually in information systems, and I've been doing tech. I just accidentally got into tech. I picked up a Microsoft Access book and designed the database to help me do. I was working as a mortgage underwriter, and I designed the database to help me track all these stipulations for the loans I was underwriting when I was traveling. And I came back and decided to go to graduate school and start writing SQL and start doing BI, and here we are today.
Yeah. Yep. What about you, Alberto?
Well, I started playing with computers when I was 14. And since then, I knew that I wanted to work with computers all the time. Therefore, I went to the college. I started my PhD that I never finished because my goal was to become a teacher at the college, but never went there because that was not my environment. And so I started working with computer all the time. But I knew what I wanted to do since when I was 14 years old. I played with my first computer. And I say, well, that's going to be my future. That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
Life is so easy then.
Similar.
You have a path in front of you.
Yep. Yeah, and I started mucking around with computers when I think it was like 10 or 11. And then built my first custom computer when I was 16. And just knew that I was going to do something with computer. My first job was at a Egghead software computer retailer. Like I knew even then, I'm just doing something with computers. And so, yep.
Not me. Not me.
Not you. That's all right. That's all right. All righty. Alberto, thank you so much for spending your Saturday with us. It's very much appreciated. Always good to see you. Hopefully next time it'll be in person. Or on another live stream too. That'd be great. Or video, whatever. And then Patrick, thanks for making it in time to join us as well.
Yeah.
It was fun.
See, I was at a breast cancer walk. That's my t-shirt. I was at a breast cancer walk.
Nice. Alrighty, everyone. Hope you have a great Saturday as well. Thank you so much for being with us. And just a reminder, next weekend, we will not have a live stream. I will be on the road. And then the week after that, on the 23rd, Mr. Paul Turley is going to be right here in the cube. So excited about that. Yeah, the data bus is coming to my house. This is going to be exciting. So, all right, everyone. We will see you. Have a great weekend.
See you.
It's just another Friday in paradise. So bring your